Hey gang, welcome back to another episode of Cheap Comic Collector. This time around we're going to be taking a look at some Wonder Woman issues that I've been reading. I've never really read Wonder Woman before. I think when I was a kid I had issue number 300. I bought it because it was, a giant size anniversary issue, which I was always a sucker for. And I think it had some guest stars that I liked. But I don't, other than that, I don't really remember much about it. Being a guy, I wasn't really ever that interested in Wonder Woman, so as reading material, and so this is kind of my first exposure to Wonder Woman stories. Obviously I'm familiar with her from the TV show, and the movies, and her appearances in other books like Justice League of America, but that's not the same as having your own series. So, I was kind of surprised at how much I like these books, actually. These are more recent books. I think this is the oldest one in this stack. I think we go in chronological order here. 1997, Wonder Woman +1. The cover is by Mike Collins and Tom Palmer, who also did the inside art. And it's not a bad cover. Wonder Woman's face looks, I don't know, kind of odd. Looks better on camera than it does in person, actually. And it's not really a Wonder Woman story. It's actually a Jesse Quick story with Wonder Woman kind of making a guest appearance. They just marketed it as a Wonder Woman title, I guess. And the story's pretty good. It features Jesse Quick and her mother, Liberty Bell, dealing with the death/loss of Johnny Quick. And I say death/loss because, according to this story, he was absorbed into the Speed Force, which, of course, always makes it possible for a comeback. So, for all I know, he's already been back for several years. Who knows? I have no idea. So, the artwork's pretty good. Not too bad. A little bit on the cartoony side, but not awful. And it's a pretty emotional story. It's a good story. And that was pretty much it. Like I said, not a bad story. One I would recommend. It's definitely had its moments. This next issue is Wonder Woman Annual number 1 from 2007. Cover and main story art is by Terry and Rachel Dotson. Story is by Alan Heinberg, and wraps up a story titled Who is Wonder Woman? Lots of guest stars, which seems to be a trend in at least the modern Wonder Woman stories. I think when they don't know what to do with the character, they just kind of throw in a guest star. And to make it more interesting, Throughout these issues, the story aspects I enjoyed the most were Wonder Woman's relationships with other heroes, and like when they told a story where Wonder Woman wasn't really the focus, someone else was the focus, and they just used Wonder Woman to keep things interesting and keep the story moving. You'll see an example of that later on. But like I said, this one's got lots of guest stars, lots of villains. There's all the guest stars exploding onto the scene. Apparently Nemesis is a supporting character in this series. It appears from this and a couple of the other issues. The artwork's great. No complaints on the art whatsoever. Story was good, but it was just kind of wrapping up a storyline, so it wasn't nothing phenomenal. The backup story, let's see, art was done by Gary Frank on pencils with John Sibal inking. It focuses on Wonder Woman's relationship with the spy Nemesis. They seem to be working together, but at the same time spying on each other. And again, the artwork's okay. Nothing nothing to complain about. And then this next one is Wonder Woman Futures End #1. It's a one-shot from the Futures End series, which I basically know nothing about, which I discovered after reading this issue, because I don't understand what's going on in this issue. It does have the lenticular cover. You can see a change in there. That's pretty much the coolest thing about this issue. The cover was by Tom Rainey. Story is by Charles Soule. Pencils by Reg Morales. Inks by Matt Banning and Jose Marzan Jr. Artwork's fine, but I don't really understand the story because I don't know what's going on. There was no recap explaining anything, and it's basically Wonder Woman fighting in a world of the dead, and then Superman shows up. I don't... yeah, I have a lot of the Futures End titles, which I haven't read yet, so I'm sure it'll all make sense eventually. But artwork's fine. It was a good issue. I just didn't really understand the overall story arc of what was going on. There's a cool looking Superman that shows up at the end with a kind of a star field as a body or something. I don't know what that's about. Just don't know. So, Wonder Woman 9 from 2016. The Rebirth series, which is the current series, it just ended with 800. At some point it reverted back to legacy numbering, I think with 750. Covers by Liam Sharp, who is the story artist as well. Story by Greg Rucka. This was a great story. Despite it being in the middle of a run, I had no problem following what was going on. Characterization was excellent. There's one scene in here I want to show you. The mall scene, which if you're just reading the title, you probably won't notice. I didn't notice until I looked the issue up on Grand Comics database and they had a note about it. But somewhere here, we've got a mall scene. Here it is. So in this scene, most of these store names are tributes to previous creators on Wonder Woman. So, you know, George Perez is in there, some other people, and I just thought that was a pretty cool thing to do. Art's fantastic. Just overall, a really good story. Didn't have any problem following it, despite it being in the middle of a series. You know, didn't have a recap, but the way it's written, a recap's not really necessary. This one is Wonder Woman number 10. Cover art and inside art are by Nicola Scott. Story by Greg Rucka again. This is just as excellent as the previous issue, but it's confusing because it didn't continue the story from the previous issue. Apparently the title had two completely different storylines running in alternating issues. So odd numbers were one storyline, even numbers were a completely different story. This issue is part of a year one story with Wonder Woman being new to man's world. It is a good issue, but yeah, I mean, what idiot thinks it's a good idea to make readers who wait 2 issues instead of 1 to read the continuation of a story by running 2 different storylines like this? Just weird, you know. Editor is Mark Doyle, so I'm going to blame him. Even if it was the writer's idea, the editor should have stepped in and made a better choice. But running the storylines separate or having double-sized issues or something, it does appear that they were publishing 2 issues a month at this point, so there's that at least where, yeah, you didn't have to wait 2 months to continue the story, but it's just weird how they're running 2 completely different series or different stories in the same series but using consecutive numbering. It's just odd, very odd. I mean, if you're a new reader and you want to pick up the next issue and you pick up the next issue and it's completely different, what are the chances of you picking up another issue? You know, it's just a very strange choice. This one, same thing. This number 11, it continued the story from number 9. Number 12 continued the story from number 10, and it just goes on like that. This is number 14. Again, I mean, all these stories were great. The art's great. They're fine. They're wonderful issues. It's just got that weird every other issue storyline thing going on. And then, yeah, this is number 16. And it's a different, it's a start of a new story, but they're still using the alternating method. Don't know how long that went on. They did continue the twice a month publishing schedule for quite a while, but at some point they went, with a more straightforward storyline. This is issue 57, covered by David Yarden. Story by James Tinian, pencils by Emanuela Lupacchino, inks by Ray McCarthy. This is actually part 4 of a crossover with Justice League Dark. It's not done by the Wonder Woman creative team, so it's probably done by the Justice League Dark team. Didn't enjoy this much as the other issues, but it appears... I didn't read the previous issues either, so I don't know what it's really all about. Some of these, I mean, they really need to learn how to do recaps in some modern titles, and not just. I mean, I know they're at this point they're just publishing to publish. The publishers don't really care whether they have readers or not. It seems like, but it just somebody needs to make some editorial choices. This is number 63. Don't know how to pronounce the cover artist names. It's Xermanico, Zermanico, something like that. Story by G. Willow Wilson, pencils by Emanuela Lupacchino, inks by Ray McCarthy. This was actually an enjoyable issue, but Wonder Woman isn't in it very much. The focus is on a Pegasus, a Minotaur, and a Satyr that are trying to fit into modern society after Wonder Woman brought them to Washington, D.C. It's very well written. Characterization is great. Great art. I enjoyed that the most after the Greg Rucka stories of all the issues. This one's 772. This is a variant cover by Joshua Middleton. Written by Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan. Story and art by Travis Moore. Not sure what's going on here. Not a bad issue, but some issues really need a recap if you're not reading the series regularly. And basically this is an issue of Thor complete with Odin and Valkyries and all the Norse legend characters. And Deadman shows up in the middle just for no apparent reason. There's also a Young Diana backup story in this one. It's by Jordi Belair with art by Paulino Kazunite. I don't know how to pronounce anything. Art's fantastic, but it just doesn't feel like Wonder Woman because she's basically being a sword and sorcery type fantasy character in a Asgard setting. It was kind of a fun issue, but it would have been nice to have known what was going on a little bit better. It's not often that I notice the colors in a book, but these pages right here, the coloring on this is phenomenal. Not sure who the colorist was, but kudos to whoever they are. This is really good stuff. Very, very. I mean, look at this right here. This and this down here. It almost looks like a photo. The coloring is so fantastic. And then this is the little Diana backup story, which is apparently a continuing backup. And then lastly, we have the 2021 Wonder Woman Annual. Cover by Mitch Gerads, story by Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan again, art by Andy McDonald. Same writer as the Thor story, but they do a better job here. Not sure as I like Wonder Woman's characterization, as she basically attacks someone without much of a reason. But the guy is a bad guy, and that leads into the story leads into the trial of the Amazon storyline that I think went through a couple different titles and a couple of one-shots. And that's pretty much it for the Wonder Womans that I'm rating. I don't know, there may be a few more issues in the boxes that I've bought that I haven't read yet. I was surprised that I enjoyed these as much as I did. The storylines by Greg Rucka and the Rebirth issues were definitely the highlights. I look forward to getting more of those issues. They were good stories. It's just too bad they had to ruin it with that alternating issue thing. My understanding that Wonder Woman is getting rebooted yet again with a new #1 that's being solicited now. In the new series, Congress passes a law allowing Amazons on Americans, not allowing Amazons on American soil. So her activities are illegal. It could be interesting, but sounds a lot like the Superhero Registration Act over at Marvel. Maybe they'll tie it into illegal immigration type stories, considering their kind of woke attitude in a lot of their titles. Hopefully it'll be worth reading. DC has been putting out a few good titles lately. The new Superman series is worth checking out. Got some original takes on classic characters such as Parasite as a zombie virus. Luthor is advising Superman from his jail cell because Superman can hear him with his super hearing. Silver Banshee and Jimmy Olsen fall in love. It's an interesting read. And it kind of it's a new take on a lot of classic characters. It's pretty interesting. Also, highly recommend the Current World's Finest title written by Mark Waid. Flash has been pretty good lately, but I think they just came out with the last issue, number 800, a couple weeks ago. That's got some great stories in it, but I think that title's getting rebooted also with a new creative team. So I have to wait and see what's going on with that one. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you would. And I'll see you next time. Have a good one.